may make this look easy, but let me tell y'all that this here is a tough job, and it is just compounded by the conditions under which we must work. Imagine, my job is to tell the stories of my people, to record history as it really happened. And then you must deal with stigmatization, being sidelined, abused, the corruption, poor wages, lack of support, and deceit, which one must now then painstakingly expose at great risk to your very own existence. President Hage Geingoob's response to questions at the end of another COVID briefing by a journalist from the Namibia Press Agency, Edward Mumbu, saw in particular journalists from various media houses come together to do something about the intimidations of journalists in this country that lauds itself on press freedom. Here's what happened. Tea, anyone?
The question is directed to the President, and it says, with evidence currently before the courts that the President's personal lawyer, Mr. Namanje's firm, was used to sort of launder money or was engaged in illicit activities. Honorable President, Your Excellency, I want to find out from you, is it not prudent or wise for the President to, as somebody who says you champion the fight against corruption, you detest it, and is it not wise for you to distance yourself from your personal lawyer until such a time that he is vindicated by the courts of law? That's the first question. The second question is the appointment of a spy to the Anti-Corruption Commission. Mr. President, this has been received with mixed feelings by certain quarters. People are alleging that this career spy has been placed by State House to simply compromise the ACC. Again, Mr. President, what is your response to this? And the third one is the removal of Mr. Becker, who was the chief investigator of the Namibian police under the criminal division, and he was the focal person in investigating the fish rod scandal. Again, people are saying this is also an attempt, perhaps by politicians or even the General Deitunga himself, to ensure that Becker, who has proven to be incorruptible and not taking directives from politicians, to be moved to a division where he's technically useless, if I may put it that way, because he's not a qualified expert in the division that he was taken to. Mr. President, with those questions, thank you.
Why didn't you ask to come and see me and ask me the questions? Those questions with nothing to do with what you're doing here. It's diversionary. Why didn't you come? Why do you want to spoil? We are talking about problem affecting all of us. Now you are coming to ask me 3 questions which have nothing to do with what we are briefing with you on. You want me to now answer that, to divert the whole thing? Tomorrow is now going to be that news, not what we are giving you. First, I don't appoint to move people around. You must do your homework first. I don't move them, I don't appoint them. Now, there is also a belief about if somebody is being questioned, not found guilty, you must therefore, if my daughter or my son is being followed, being charged, not even charged, being in questions being asked, and I must just say, go to hell, you're not anymore my daughter? What kind of logic is this? Witch hunting. You see, if you are looking for something on me, you should have gotten it by now. Why are you witch hunting still? Other day, somebody was sent to talk to a person who was working with me, not even entering my office. Do you know who was the president seeing? Do people come with cash? Does he carry cash? It's childish. If by now I were involved, we should know it. They should have known it. Facts should be there. Why are you trying to bring in things, innuendos and so on? By now, anybody should know if I were involved. It should be there. Why creating stories, people to believe stories? No, you're not here for that. You're here for other things. I'm just telling you, if people are investigating, let them investigate and find the facts. Who's stopping them? Let them find the facts. Your wishful thinking, you will be embarrassed or disappointed. By now, you should know if somebody was in my wife being followed. What is this? By now, somebody, if you have facts, they have been there treating themselves, they should bring it up by now. Now to go around and look for people, that's become nonsense, so childish. You're bringing that here too. We're talking about serious questions we're facing. And now distancing from somebody. What does that have to do with, is he found guilty? Isn't the person innocent until proven guilty? And by the way, how do you say, do I sleep with him? Do I with him daily? What are you talking about? What are you guys up to? You are destroying this country's name, even you made it look like the most corrupt country. Which is the case. You are throwing the baby off the water, tap water, bath water, making each part of your country to look like it's the most corrupt country. Which is not the case. Now you came now as a spoiler, coming last to divert us from serious matter we are discussing. Courts are there, let them deal with their case.
AR activist Joe Bamapanda and a number of journalists took to social media to express their disgust with the manner in which the journalist was treated. The management of NAMPA wants to discipline a young journalist for asking tough questions. We must defend and protect the young Edward Mumbu from the vultures who want to eat on State House's instruction. Apparently, after the press conference, NAMPA news editor Maggie Thomas was called to order by her CEO Linus Chata and had to throw her journalist under the bus. It reads, "No, Mr. C, these questions are from the reporter without consulting us. We have already summoned him about this and also informed State House that this is not NAMPA's opinion, but that of an individual, and the reporter is warned seriously." Namibia Press Agency journalist Edward Mumbu, in pursuit of journalistic excellence, asked a few pertinent questions at the end of a COVID briefing last week. President Hage Gengob's responses were crushing to say the very least, and rallied journalists to stand together to fight the intimidation that has been rearing its ugly head as Namibia slowly regresses into fascism. Former editor and investigative journalist Mathias Haufiku is amongst those spearheading efforts to unite journalists, and we had a chat about what's going down.
There has been a lot of build-up towards what happened last week at State House. I think this was just the culmination of it all, where we as journalists decided that we should stand up for our rights and freedoms to practice without any interference and without undue pressure. So there's been many events over the years actually, but there's not been a concerted effort by media practitioners themselves to take on, whether it's politicians or any other groups that might present what we call a threat to the industry. At this point, I believe many journalists can relate to it. The president gets most of the flack because it's mostly in the public. It also happens in normal interviews, in offices of ministers and so on. So it's not just this. Obviously, the president's issue speaks to the system itself. There's an entire press office at State House. You wonder what they do. We know what press officers do around the world. You do mock interviews, you prepare the president for interviews. Do these things happen, or do these people get paid for nothing? So those are some of the things we wonder. You look at the body language of the president when he answers questions. It shouldn't be that way. Do they even get in perhaps a psychologist or speech therapist just to help him, just to ease him off and so on? We know the president is quite engaging, and he can be, but also there needs to be a level of management to ensure that he doesn't veer off the road. The nickels and the fights with whether it's the president or other politicians, that will always be there. Our job is to inform, entertain, and educate the public. The politicians feel the way they deliver services to the people is in the right manner, but we are on the ground more than them, and we understand what the needs of the people are. So until we find that interface and harmony between the system and the press, I think we still have a long way to go. The nickels and the fights with whether it's the president or other politicians, that will always be there. Our job is to inform, entertain, and educate the public. The politicians feel the way they deliver services to the people is in the right manner, but we are on the ground more than them, and we understand what the needs of the people are. So until we find that interface and harmony between the system and the press, I think we still have a long way to go.
I asked former editor and investigative journalist Mathias Haufiku what he attributes the shortness of the president's tether when dealing with journalists too.
Naturally, you would see that when he's cornered, he tends to be very combative instead of diplomatic. And as a leader, you sometimes need to swallow the information before you answer and not just be abrasive and to try and shrug it off. Look at what happened on Friday. It was an innocent question, very innocent question. He could have answered it in a normal way. We all forgot what last week's address was about. It was about COVID. It ends up that the president, everything everyone's speaking about now is the way he reacted. So we all forgot about the COVID briefing. So you see now how it overshadowed everything. So those are some of the elements that he needs to be working on. I believe it's the responsibility of his team to help him. Also, the pressure from the country. There's so many fires burning around the country. Figuratively speaking, when I say fires, many issues, whether it's health, education, there's so much going on. And I believe there's so much on his shoulders, and his team, whether it's cabinet or parliament, are not helping him to carry this burden forward.
Local journalist Jemima Beerkus has featured in headlines following various runs-in with the SWAPO leadership. Check this out.
None of your business. You are telling me I cannot be the best. It's a closed door. How is it closed door? Only 1, 2, 3, 4 ministers. We do that daily. Closed door. That's how you distort things. Why did we come out? It is closed door. Daily I have investors here. Covered by press. Don't distort things always. And he's a special investor. He's a man of standing. You respect people, you must respect people. He is not an ordinary investor. There are classes also. You and I, you are very important, I'm not that important. So you must know that's how it is. Since you have power of the press, you are very important. We differ. So investors, have stated investors, I was a minister of state before, by the way. We have stated investors in this country. He's one of them. So invite, welcome investors. Don't chase them away and then cry, we don't have jobs. How do we develop a country? You don't eat that meat. You need to provide conducive environment that people in public, firstly you should know how open we are in this country. You were always invited here. And you were therefore came out so that we can talk. He doesn't want to talk, that's his business. But I said we'll come out because I have a duty to talk to you.
I think I'm clear.
My sister Beatrice, why do you hate us so much? You are always angry, you must be happy. Ask your questions. you see where you are going. I saw that. Now look how you do things. Look how you do things. Why do you always exaggerate things? Other day you said you came in with my car, but I didn't even see you. There at the hospital. Don't be angry. It's good to be angry. But that's what you are saying. They voted for us. They voted for us. That's an angry. Okay, comrade. Thank you very much.
The gatekeepers of the truth, the frontline essential workers that bring you news that affects you and me, because it is what we are called to do, are trying to gather in numbers and speak with one voice against incidents of intimidation. Former editor and investigative journalist Mathias Haufiku and I spoke about the options that journalists are exploring for their protection.
There is a wide call within the fraternity for everyone to join into this movement. You would see that over the years, there's been an attempt to establish a union for journalists, for media practitioners to fight for their interests and so on. You'll see that there is the Editors Forum of Namibia, but it seems the journalists are on their own. But without journalists, they can't be. What will editors do if they don't have journalists? So it surprises me that they are silent on some of these issues that affects journalists. So I think we're trying to pick up the pieces to see where those who came before us, who tried to start a similar movement, where they ended off, what stifled them, why they couldn't proceed with a project in that nature. Because I believe that for too long we've been fragmented as an industry. Everyone was doing their own thing, although we've been facing similar challenges, while at the same time having the same mandate. So it doesn't make sense why we shouldn't move under one banner. Well, for now, it's still at a very primitive stage. You'll see that the statement we issued yesterday was as a group of concerned journalists. Of course, there has been a couple of meetings taking place just to see what is the way forward really. Do we really need a union? Do we just need a movement? What is it that we need? So, but as an industry, the call is open for everyone to join. There are some platforms. I know most of the journalists are aware of those platforms where we're having interactions. So we are deciding on the way forward, but soon we will make a major announcement as to how we'll go about to ensure that there is a structure that protects the well-being and the interests of media practitioners. They have their mandate, I believe. It's fair if they decide that they only cater for issues affecting editors and so on. That's why we need to stand up for ourselves. A lot of journalists in the newsrooms are being stifled. I hope it's not the same with you guys. Most of them cannot practice freely. Some of them are demoralized because they can't do their job, because their editors feel they need to suck up to the owners of the media houses. Those are a lot of problems that we're facing. We don't even have an entry-level salary for journalists. There's still journalists who get paid 4,000 or 5,000. So those are some of the things we need to look at.
Press freedom is vital to any community, and we've seen a growing trend within the Southern African region of not only human rights violations by those who are supposedly here to serve and protect us, but also against journalists. I spoke to Ronelle Rademeyer of the Editors Forum of Namibia and asked her what is being done to protect the freedoms of journalists in this country.
First and foremost, I want to stress that the Editors Forum of Namibia is, of course, not a workers' union. That is not the reason why it was founded. It was founded to self-regulate the media fraternity of Namibia in terms of the conduct of journalists and the content of reports published in print or in the electronic media. Now, the Editors Forum in its Code of Ethics and Conduct makes it very clear in its preamble the essence of our existence is to safeguard Article 21(1)(a) of the Namibian Constitution, that all people shall have the right to freedom of speech and expression, which shall include freedom of the press and other media. And it's also very important to note that when the Windhoek Declaration was signed in Windhoek on the 3rd of May 1991, it particularly states that it's necessary for truly independent representative organizations, syndicates or trade unions of journalists and associations of editors and publishers to be formed in all countries of Africa where such bodies do not exist. That was then in 1991. Now, almost 30 years later, Namibia still do not have a trade union of journalists or as an association that is really taking care of the interest of journalists. So although the Editors Forum is there to make sure that the right to freedom of speech and expression is being safeguarded, and also to guide over ethics and conduct of reporters, it is very important that journalists should also have a body that take care of their issues and their concerns. So the Editors Forum, we are definitely not against the formation of such a body.
Investigative journalist Mathias Haufiku and I also spoke about the sluggish pace with which the Access to Information Bill is being effected. He raised an alarming point.
Access to information is a two-way thing. You see now when the bill came to Parliament, the first issue that came out was one of the clauses that says no one must report anything on cabinet. Who decided on that? I'm sure the Editors Forum were consulted. Could they have agreed with that really? As a responsible media boss, would you agree with something like that? So these are some of the things, and such things will go through because us as journalists will be affected because we are in the field every day. These things impact us. So that's why we need a movement like this. But ATI, you'll see most of the governments, they don't want to give up power. Some of them want to consolidate power. Some of them will push through ATI when they know it interests them and when they know that it stifles the other party. Like in this case, when you say no one reports on cabinet, they know they can safely push through their projects and agendas and no one will say anything because the moment you dare report on it, it's a criminal offense. So these are some of the things we need to look at.
Meanwhile, our brothers and sisters in Zimbabwe continue to feel the wrath of their corrupt leaders, and these images give us just a glimpse of what they're dealing with on the ground. I asked our Minister of International Relations, Netumbo Nandi-Ndaitwah, to make a statement on what is happening in Zim. And crickets, same WhatsApp group, Mos.
We have just arrived at Hopewell's house after receiving an SOS that his home had been surrounded by about 8 state security agents, and they broke the glass at his door, gained entry, and he has been abducted. We are not sure where he has been taken because his worker says they did not produce any warrant when they came to his house.
And with that, it's a wrap. Stay woke with It's a Wrap by following us on our social media pages. It's a Wrap Nam on Insta, It's a Wrap Namibia on YouTube, and It's a Wrap with Erica Gebhardt on Facebook.